Good morning, Vietnam! Are you Robin Williams fans out there? Okay. Hey, it's day 13 of Hey Nostradamus. It's starting part 3. We're going to jump to Heather's section, right? If you want to, look back in the table of contents with me or just trust what I'm saying. 1988 was Cheryl's section. 1999, 11 years later, was Jason. And then 3 years after that is Heather. So, Heather, who's Heather? Let's find out who Heather is. It's 3 years after Jason finished up that letter to his sons, not his nephews, his sons. We found out that Jason and Barb had the boys because on the night that Kent died, Barb kind of lost her mind and she wanted to have babies to remember Kent by, and they had to look like Kent, and she couldn't wait a cycle, and they had been trying, and Jason shot mostly blanks, she said, and so this was her one chance to have something that belonged to Kent, though it didn't really belong to Kent. You know what I'm saying? So they run off to Las Vegas and get married, and while she's there, she kills a guy named Rick Kozarek, who says, "Hey, what you guys doing in Las Vegas?" She's like, "I can't have him asking these questions about why we were in Vegas on the night that Kent died, so I had to kill him. Hit him upside the head with a vodka bottle in this $29 a night hotel room that came with bagels or donuts or croissants or something the next morning, right? Okay. And then they go back home and everyone's like, "Oh, you freaked out. Husband died." Makes sense. Okay. So then he writes up the letters and says, today you're men, my sons, because suppose that they're going to open this letter when they get to 18. And that was in Jason's section. And now we jump 3 years later to Heather, whoever that is. Let's jump right into it and find out who Heather is. All right, part 3, Heather. Heather's section is Jason's section is long and Heather's section is long. The two longest sections in the book. Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock, and her whole section will be like this. Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock. I met Jason in a lineup at Toys R Us. It should be Toys R We, because R is a linking verb that connects the subject toys to the predicate noun we. There you say us in the predicate, and so you have to use the nominative case or the subjective case, which is we. Like when you go, "Hey," into the phone, "Ling, ling, hello," they say, "Hey, is Jim there?" And you're supposed to say, "This is he," not "It's me." It's he. This is he. Is that your new boyfriend over here? Yep, that is he, right? But anyway, so I say Toys R We. And the show, This Is Us, ever watch the show This Is Us? I call it This Is We. Drives my family nuts. I drive everybody nuts, apparently. Anywho, I met Jason in a lineup at Toys R We. He was in front of me buying a pile of toys, looking slightly sad, slightly damaged, and slightly naughty. We know he's buying toys for his sons. I had some toy plastic groceries for my sister's kid who never really cares what I give her, and I just wanted to escape the store. But instead, there's this sad guy in front of me, no wedding ring, straight looking, and no apparent tattoos. And so maybe I didn't want to leave too quickly after all. The cashier was changing the paper tape. Why does that always happen in my line? Standing on the counter was a plastic giraffe model someone had abandoned. Some wiseacre had strapped it into a little sheepskin coat with a fleece lining. It probably came from the box of one of Barbie's gay boyfriends. I said, "I think our giraffe here is a bit sexually confused." Jason said, "It's that fleece-lined bomber jacket. Always a dead giveaway. Manly, and yet more like a prop than a garment. I bet you anything our giraffe friend here is always buying Shetland sweaters for the younger giraffes, but he doesn't even understand why he does it. The sweater buying impulse baffles him more than it frightens him." Jason handed his toys to the cashier. He's like a vice president of Nestle operating out of Switzerland, but he's totally clueless, and he always misses the parts of the board meetings where they do all the evil stuff to third world countries. He sort of bumbles into the boardroom and everyone indulges him. "His name is Gerard," Jason said. "Yes, Gerard T. Giraffe. What does the T stand for?" The. We rang our toys to the till and kept right on talking. I don't even know who was steering whom, but we ended up in the Denny's next door. We kept expanding Gerard's universe. Jason said Gerard had this real fixation about being manly. He wears a sheepskin coat as much as he can. He worships George Papard and buys old black and white photos and scrapbooks about him on eBay. And he decorated his apartment in rich tobacco browns and somber ochres in maybe 1975 and has never changed them. Yes, manly colors, pearly walnut furniture. High karate aftershave. Yeah. He still uses words like aftershave. And he invites his friends over for dinner parties, but the food is from some other period in history. Cherry's Jubilee, baked Alaska, T-bone steaks, fondue. I asked, what are his friends' names? Chester, Roy, and Alphonse. Alphonse is the exotic one with a hint of the dance in his past. And Francesca, the beautiful but broke fifth daughter of a disgraced Rust Belt vacuum cleaner tycoon. Possibly someone Francesca even is wearing a cravat. I thought Jason was the most talkative man I'd ever met, but I later found out he'd said more to me in those 2 hours than he'd spoken to all the people in his life in the past decade. He obviously was a born talker, but he needed a ventriloquist dummy to speak through. Somehow that dark, dorky giraffe on the counter had pressed his on button, and we had just invented the first of a set of what I would call fusion entities, characters that could only exist when the two of us were together. All right. So I wanted to get through a little bit and then stop and talk. So I know right away you're thinking, Jason's talking like crazy. Jason doesn't talk to anybody. But remember in his letter to his clone, he said, find some puppet or some ventriloquist dummy to do your talking for you or to talk through, right? So he is a talk. He finds out that he really is a talker. He just needed someone to talk to. Just a couple of things. If you don't know who George Peppard is, George Peppard is from the A-Team. If you can find them. No, if you need help and no one else will and you can find them, you can hire the A-Team. The TV show A-Team had George Peppard as the leader. Hannibal as the leader. Then there was Face, and then there was somebody else, and then there was B.A. Maracas, I think his name was. That was Mr. T. Mr. T. Mr. T's the one that was in Rocky 3, fighting Rocky, bald guy, wore all the chains, right? Mr. T. Gonna hurt you. He was in the A-Team. So George Peppard's a real manly guy, but he, worships. He wears like the bomber jackets and stuff. The other thing I was going to say was, Nestle operating out of Switzerland. So back in, I might have been the 80s, probably the 80s, there's a big boycott of Nestle because Nestle made baby formula. And they would give baby formula away initially to people, to mothers in third world countries, right? The kind of formula that you would just add water to. But then so they would get them hooked on the baby formula, but then they would have the third world countries, the moms there would have not enough clean water to make the baby food. So they would dilute the baby food with not enough, they couldn't get the formula, so they would dilute it in the little water they had to make it last longer, and the babies weren't getting the nutrients they needed, and they were dying of malnutrition, and it was this big deal. So people were boycotting Nestle. So that was what that reference to was to for the Nestle's. Doing all the evil things in third world countries, and this guy was clueless because he always missed those meetings. All right, so high karate aftershave was an aftershave that was around some of those other references. Okay, so Heather, we know is you can figure from this point is going to be Jason's girlfriend. So Heather meets Jason in line at Toys R Us. They hit it off. They go over to Denny's, keep right on talking, and boom, they're an item. I said in a couple of videos, nothing is irrelevant. It all comes back full circle. It's all these details are important. These characters that the very first time they met was making this Gerard T. Giraffe character at Toys R Us. These characters they make together are integral to Heather's story and to what happens in this chapter. All right, very important. All right, let's go back. Francesca's in a cravat. All right. I asked, what kind of car would Gerard drive? Car, that's simple. A 1973 Ford LTD Brougham sedan with a claret-colored vinyl roof, white leather interior, and opera windows. Perfect. Do you remember the last time we talked about a 1974 Ford LTD Brougham? It's when Jason said, you know what, Dad? God drives a Ford Brougham when he's trying to get under his dad's skin. Perfect. In the end, I think the relationships that survive in this world are the ones where the two people can finish each other's sentences. Forget drama and torrid sex and the clash of opposites. Give me banter any day of the week, and our characters were the best banterers going. Looking for quotes? There's another good one, right? Maybe you agree or maybe you disagree. Maybe you can write either side of that one. Forget drama and torrid sex and the clash of opposites. Give me banter any day of the week. When Jason left to go pick up his nephews that day, he took my number with him and called me, and that was that. Barb just phoned. She's arrived in Redwood City, south of San Francisco, where she works with Chris, Cheryl's brother. The Cheryl. I'm no dum-dum on the score, but Jason and Cheryl was so long ago. We move on, or rather, Jason sure tries. Barb's commuting down the coast, and she asked me to babysit the twins for a few days. Chris proposed to her last week, and she accepted. The world moves in mysterious ways. I mean, Cheryl Anway's brother and Jason Clausen's sister-in-law. Okay, so Heather acknowledges that's crazy, but she has no idea how crazy that really is. Right? In her mind, Jason, let's see, Jason's ex-girlfriend, Cheryl, her brother is marrying Jason's brother's ex-wife, widow, right? And that's crazy. But what she doesn't know, of course, is that one, Jason and Cheryl weren't just boyfriend and girlfriend. Jason and Cheryl were married at the school shooting when Cheryl died in his arms. Two, she has no idea that the twins that she's babysitting are actually Jason's sons and not his nephews. And three, she has no clue that to make those babies, Jason and Barb, Kent's widow, the day Kent died, they drove to Las Vegas and got married in the same chapel that he had married Cheryl secretly, and they got married and had the babies. So technically, Barb is still married to Jason. When Chris proposes, when his ex-wife's brother proposes to her and she accepts to get married to him, she's actually still married to Jason. Nobody knows it, but legally she's married to Jason. It's crazy. It's crazy to Heather. It's even crazier than Heather even knows. All right. Chris creates face mapping software programs for governments and big business. Chris can take your face, pinpoint your nostrils, the ends of your lips, your retinas, and with a few more measurements, generate your unique, unchangeable face map. You can't fake a face, even with cosmetic surgery. It all seems a bit spooky to me. I mean, this could be abused so easily. And I told Chris so when he was over at our place for dinner. Now, what's interesting here is that, think about this. The computer that I'm filming this on is, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. And every time I boot up, it looks for my face to make sure it's me. Every time I look at my iPhone, it looks at my face to make sure it's me. This face mapping software is so commonplace now, we don't even think twice about it, right? We don't think twice about it. We see it every day. But back when Kuplan was writing this book, and when Kuplan was writing this book about the time when she's reading this, when she's writing her chapter, it wasn't widespread, you know. Now we watch crime shows and like, did you run it through facial recognition software? Yes, bling, I got a hit in 2 seconds. This was burgeoning, that's the word, right? Burgeoning technology back then, okay? Look that up, because I think I'm saying the right word, but it's not sounding right coming out of my mouth. All right, let's do it. Hey Google, what's the definition of burgeoning?
Here's the definition of burgeon. Begin to grow or increase rapidly, flourish.
Perfect. Smarter than I thought I was. Okay. Chris, back to Heather. Chris, what if you took the face of a famous actor and entered their facial proportions into your database? Would you find their duplicate? The term we use is analog. Come again? Your analog isn't your twin or your clone. He or she is the person out there who's maybe a millimeter away from having the same face as you. You're joking. Not at all. But the weird thing is, an analog doesn't even have to be the same sex, let alone the same hair color or skin color. Put you or your analog in a room together, and people are going to assume the two of you are twins. If you're a boy and she's a girl, people simply assume it's your twin in drag. This exists. The government already has face maps of all prison inmates and other people who float through the judicial system. Barb was particularly intrigued by this idea. Jason's father had made some very badly chosen comments about the twins at Kent's Memorial a few years back, and since then she's been on a crusade to learn everything about twins she can. See, one thing I like about this book is that we have more information than the characters do. And FYI, that's called dramatic irony. When the audience knows more about what's going on than the characters in the play or the book, it's dramatic irony. So we can fill in the gaps. When she says Reg made some ill-timed comments. Is that what she said? Ill-timed, badly chosen comments. We know it's when he said one of the twins might be a monster and not have a soul, right? Which led to Barb, driving him out of the memorial with a chair and all that stuff like that. Okay. She began to discuss using face maps to help twins who have been separated when very young and where the law prevents them from accessing closed files. She became passionate, and there's nothing sexier than enthusiasm, and boy, did Chris respond. First, he got her a job at his company's Vancouver affiliate, and now they're engaged. There's a lesson there. I'm sitting here and inputting this in Barb's home office beside the kitchen, looking around at all the bits of things that make her house a home. Flowers, a regularly culled cork notice board, obviously tended to in and out baskets, framed family photos. Where does she get the energy to frame things? How does anybody get the energy to frame things? Clean rugs, it's a long list. I love Jason dearly, but neither of us is very gifted on the domestic front. We're not quite as bad as those people who plaster a Union Jack or a Confederate flag up on the windows as curtains, and Molly Maid comes in once a month to decontaminate the place with industrial vacuum and cleaning agents perfected during the Vietnam War. It's always hard for us afterward to make eye contact with the disgusted Russian and Honduran girls who do the place. Is it so wrong to be a slob? Okay, I know I'm using both the present and past tenses for Jason and me. Is he alive or dead? I have no choice but to hope he's somewhere and breathing. He's been gone a few months now, not a peep. He went down to buy smokes at Mac's Milk and never came home. He walked, no car involved. And well, the thing about people vanishing is that they're vanished. They haven't left you a clue. They're gone. A clue. I'd kill for a clue. I'd sell my retinas for a clue. But vanish is indeed the correct verb here. It's the phone. I have to answer it. Okay, so we find out it's 3 years later. Jason and Heather met at Toys R We. They hit it off. They've been an item. They've been living together, right? In this where she is now. One day he said, "I'm going out to buy some cigarettes." He walked to go to the store, and he never came back. He vanished. What's happened to him? Where'd he go? Are there any clues? Might we figure it out already? Do we have to wait? All right, let's keep going. A little bit more. What's this, 17 minutes? A little bit more. That was Reg. Remember, Reg is Jason's dad. That was Reg calling from his apartment over near Lonsdale. He just wanted to talk. Jason's disappearance has left him as bewildered as it's left me. And I must say, it truly is hard to imagine Reg as the ogre Jason's always made him out to be. Okay, Heather, be honest. You know darn well why Reg changed. Losing Jason was the clincher. He also got royally dumped just after Jason disappeared by Ruth, this woman he'd been seeing for years. Again, remember, we know that when Jason went to get Reg's stuff from the hospital, that on his way out, he saw a picture of his father. He goes, and get this, he was smiling with another woman, right? So this is Ruth. He was seeing a woman named Ruth. So he got dumped. He also got royally dumped just after Jason disappeared by Ruth, this woman he'd been seeing for years. And not only was he dumped, but she really laid into him when she did the dumping. The essence of her farewell speech, delivered in a keg steak restaurant as a neutral space, was that Reg was the opposite of everything he thought he was. Cruel. I'm going to hit puberty soon. 53 and I'm almost there. Cruel instead of kind. Blind instead of wise. Not tough, but with a skin as thin as frost. I didn't like Ruth much the few times we met. She had judgment written all over her face. In real life, it's always the judgmental people who get caught robbing the choir boys' charity raffle fund. I think I'm the sole mortal friend or contact Reg still has, which is odd, as I'm not at all churchy. He sure doesn't have friends at work. The day Ruth dumped him, he was rummaging in the plastic spoon drawer in the coffee room and found a voodoo doll of himself covered with pins made from straightened paper clips. The head had been burned a few times. I'm sorry. That's actually really awful, but funny too, right? So you know what voodoo dolls are. You make little dolls of the person you hate, and then you say a spell, you stick pins in them. It's supposed to give them pains. So he found a voodoo doll of himself in a drawer at work where his workmates would stab it with paper clips and burn the head of it to try to do damage to him. Oh, it's terrible. I mean, how awful was this guy to be with before? Okay. Um, Heather, the sound of his voice just now. His soul was sore. Reg, how you doing? Pause. Okay, but just okay. I haven't heard anything from the RCMP today. Royal Canadian Mounted Police, about Jason's disappearance. I doubt we will. Don't be so glum. Don't. And you know what? Chris has mapped Jason's face from an old photo, so at least he's in that index now. Heather, how many people are in that index anyway? I don't know, maybe a few 100,000, but it's a start. A few 100,000. Reg, don't be so negative. It's a start, and the index is only ever going to grow. He's gone. No, he's not gone, Reg. He is. I lost it here. I said, Reg, you either have to have some hope here or you stop calling, okay? Reg was silent and then, sorry. It's hard on all of us. Heather? Yes. Let me ask you a question. Okay, shoot. Reg speaking. If you could be God for a day, would you rule the world any differently from the way it's being run now? Reg, you know I'm weak on religion. Well, would you? Reg, have you eaten lunch? You need to eat. You didn't answer my question. If you were God, would you rule the world any differently? Would I? No. Why not? Reg, the world is the way it is because, well, because that's the way it is. Meaning? Reg, Jason and I once discussed this. Sometimes I think God is like weather. You may not like the weather, but it has nothing to do with you. You just happen to be there. Deal with it. Sadness and grief are part of being human and always will be. Who would I be to fix that? Another interesting quote. Oh, well, either one of those are interesting, right? That God's like the weather. It's there. You deal with it. It has nothing to do with you. Or that sadness and grief are part of being human and always will be. Who would I be to fix that? Deep thoughts. I forget that sometimes. Me of all people. This is Reg talking. I take things too personally. He went quiet again. Then, how are the boys? They're downstairs, wasted on sugar. Kelly from next door gave them Kit Kats, and I could just throttle the woman. Reg was fishing here. Reg, I asked, would you like to come over for dinner? It's 5 o'clock already. He paused just long enough to make a dinner time call seem casual. And so he's coming tonight for dinner around 8, and I just heard one of the twins crying downstairs. All right, not too long today. What was that? Is that day 13? Let me just make sure. Okay, day 13. We'll start there next time. It's good stuff. Good stuff is going to happen. Um, it's going to take Heather a little while because it's a new character. So, like, bear with her. It's a new character. We got to get into what she's telling us about. Just to recap, we know Heather and Jason were, together. We're an item. We're a couple, boyfriend, girlfriend. They met at Toys R Us, hit it off, went to Denny's, kept talking, and we're together ever since. They were living together. Jason went out for some cigarettes, never came back. He's disappeared, which has kind of brought Reg to his knees. His son Kent died. He was dead a year when Jason wrote his story 3 years ago, so he died 4 years ago. Now Jason's disappeared. He's lost all his friends. The one woman he was dating dumped him and just really laid into him, let him have it with what a hypocrite he was. And so he has nobody now except for Heather. And so she and Heather and Reg can bond over the loss of Jason. Right? But we're going to hear more about their life together. And then she gets a call from someone about Jason, and it's this roller coaster ride she's going to take. Now, it's going to be good. Don't worry. Okay, so that's it for now. It is, if you're wondering, it is Thursday, April 16th. So if you are caught up to right here by now, you are in good shape. And I'll post this in just a few minutes. So it'll go up today on the 16th. We'll pick up tomorrow with the 17th and more of Heather's section, and we'll keep going. All right. There will probably be another couple assignments on the website, so keep checking it. All right. Love you guys. I miss you. I really do. Wish we could be together. It was good to see some of your faces on that senior Zoom, even though I didn't say anything. It was nice to see some of your faces, and hopefully we can do a Zoom as a class together too. Maybe talk about some things. All right. See you next time.